Am I the asshole? For leaving the house for 5 minutes while I had chili simmering? So yesterday I was meal prepping a week's worth of chili for myself and my girlfriend, roughly 2 gallons in a huge wok at my home. While putting in the last few ingredients, I realized I was missing chipotle peppers and Fritos, 2 things that I love putting in my chili. Since there's a grocery store across the street from my neighborhood, GPS says 0.2 miles from my house, literally a 1-minute drive, I decided to leave the chili on the stove at the lowest heat and go and grab the missing ingredients quickly. I was back home within 5 minutes of leaving. When I left, one of my roommates was at home and I told him I was running to the store for a second and that I had chili simmering on the stove. My other roommate was gone all day with his girlfriend. When I get back home, I'm immediately barraged at the door by my other roommate's girlfriend, who arrived just a minute before me, screaming about how ridiculous it was of me to leave the stove on unattended. I tried calmly explaining to her that I left right before she got there, and was only gone for 5 minutes. I also calmly explained that I was simmering pounds of chili, and that with how much food there was in the wok, and how low the heat was, it would have taken a day and a half before it dried out and became a fire hazard. She didn't care one bit and still yelled at me like a pissed-off mother reprimanding a child. I expressed that I wasn't okay with her yelling at me, especially in my house, and making demands as if she owned the place. Immediately she deflected and made it about how her dog could have been there by himself and could have been hurt if the house caught on fire. Her dog wasn't there. Also, my house isn't a daycare center for her dog. I told her I've made chili dozens of times and I've always left it on simmer unattended for hours and hours at a time, mixing it occasionally, and I knew what I was doing. I also made a point that my pet parrot was at home while I left to the store, and that if I thought leaving chili on simmer for a few minutes would be a fire hazard, I wouldn't have done that. Birds are extremely sensitive to fumes and smoke, so much that coal miners would bring them into mines to give ample warning if there were toxins in the air. I told her I would understand her being upset if I did this at her house without permission, but I did this at mine. I also said that it would be different if I left with the stove on max, like if I were searing a steak or something, but this is chili, one of the few foods you leave to cook all day on the lowest heat possible. Long story short, she blows up and throws a tantrum while saying some less than nice things to me. The next day I overhear her on the phone with my roommate basically talking shit about how I can't take accountability for anything. I'm an asshole, ect. Do people actually stand around in the kitchen for 6 hours staring at chili while it simmers? Am I the asshole? Not the asshole one. Your roommate was still home and you let them know that you were leaving and that you were leaving something on the stove. That's plenty of supervision for the chili given the circumstances. 2. As you mention, this isn't her house, she isn't on the lease. If her partner, your actual roommate, has concerns, they should take that up with you. As an aside though, I wouldn't suggest leaving anything simmering for an extended amount of time without having someone there, especially if we are talking about a gas range with an open flame. That's what a slow cooker is for. The amount you pay in rent is the exact amount of say you have in my home. None. Not the asshole. Not the asshole professional firefighter here. You're right, she's wrong. Simmering chili will be fine. Most of the fires I am dispatched on are for food on the stove. They generally produce a ton of smoke and very little fire. Sometimes they burn up the cabinets, but the smoke will alert everyone, and usually with enough time to prevent anything more than a nasty lingering smell. Don't take this as permission to do this more often though. There's 0% chance you were gone for 5 minutes. Even if the store was in your next door neighbor's apartment. Time escapes us when we are busy. Be careful. She's still wrong too. Not the asshole. There was another roommate at home and you told them there was something simmering. She was way out of line. Not the asshole. It's not a fire hazard in that situation. It's not her house. It's not her place to yell at you like that. Not the asshole. But you should talk to your roommate about his girlfriend making you uncomfortable. It's just as much your house as his, I assume. I'd what the rent financial situation is, and this is a ridiculous overreaction on both their parts. Not the asshole because you alerted your roommate. She's unhinged. What kind of bird do you have? Info, did you point out to her that it wasn't unattended? Someone present knew about it. That's no different than you being there, as far as safety goes. Maybe I misread, but that seems absent from your description. Not the asshole, but I'm confused about you saying 0.2 miles is a 1-minute drove 300 meters. You wouldn't just walk there? Not the asshole, I would have told her to leave and not return. If no one had been there, I would have understood, maybe being a bit concerned. But A, you told your roommate so that they were aware. B, she doesn't even live there. She has no right to scream at you about the things you do in your own home. Even if she had a legitimate reason to be upset, screaming at you was not okay. She sounds either totally unhinged or stewing in hatred for you for something that has nothing to do with this current situation. I suppose it could be both. Has she never heard of a crock pot? Besides, your roommate, the other person who actually lives there and pays rent, was there. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. I slow cook a number of things on the stove. With chili I start it early in the day, and once everything is mixed in it simmers on the stove without me watching it for at least 4-6 hours. I do set the timer so I give it a good stir every half hour or so. If I have to run out if no one is home to watch it, I will turn it off and start it up again when I return. Not the asshole, especially as someone was home and you gave them a heads up. Personally, for things that take a long time, I either use the oven or slow cooker though, not the stovetop. Not the asshole. It is your house, not hers. She can get out if she doesn't like it. You did not need to defend yourself. There was a person in the house who you informed that the stove was on before you left. It was on low. The risk was minimal. Screaming at you was over the top. No, people don't all stay in a kitchen and stare at a pot simmering on low for hours. We check on it every now and then while doing other stuff. You also could have turned it off, went to the store and turned the burner back on. Not the asshole, and I am confused. How is it unattended if there is one roommate in the apartment? It's not like no one was there. Not the asshole, she overstepped in a big way. Not the asshole, someone was in the house. What a nasty, rude, entitled. Her from your house. I've been making chili sauces for decades. I leave them on simmer, go check the mail, walk the dog, hang laundry, live my life, haven't burnt the house down yet. Not the asshole. It's not her house, and while it was slightly more dangerous to leave the house with it cooking than just being around the house but not watching it while it was cooking, you have experience doing this and were only gone a few minutes. That said, 2 people are going to eat 2 gallons of chili in 1 week. Are you sure that's wise? Question: I understand the chipotle peppers, but do you put the Fritos in the chili while it cooks or as a crunchy topping when you dish it up to eat it? I feel like adding Fritos during the cooking process is a weird move. Not the asshole. You have a mountain of patience. I would have simply told her to F off and be done, lol. Not the asshole. If your roommate wasn't home, I'd be siding with the GF, as it's just plain unsafe to leave a stove running unattended. But it was attended by the roommate who was home, so the problem is resolved. Even if you're not hovering over the pot like a mall cop looking for shoplifters, just being around and available is enough if it's truly taking hours to cook. Like another comment said, that's what a slow cooker is for, after all. Not the asshole. I do meals similarly, and have never once stood over the stove for the entire duration of a slow cooking soup, stew, chili. Not the asshole, because there was still someone home and you told them you were leaving. Totally normal thing to do. Not the asshole at all, smiley face. Some people look for things to bitch about,